I'm finally ready to talk about Marvel's Moon Knight on Disney+. That is one of 6 new shows we're going to tackle here in TV, news, and reviews. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to TV News and Reviews for the week. We've got 6 shows to discuss, and finally on the docket is going to be Disney's Moon Knight. We've been talking about that for a few weeks now. We also have a new CBS multi-camera comedy called How We Roll, The Girl from Plainville over on Hulu, Minx on HBO Max, That Dirty Black Bag on AMC Plus, and a new reality program featuring Lizzo's quest to find her new dancers called Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big Grrrls on Amazon Prime. Before we get into the news, even though I do want to welcome you into Dan Reviews It, thank you for finding this video. We do the TV news and reviews every single week and tell you the latest about what's going on, and I review some of the newer shows that have been coming out for you. So without further ado, let's get into it. We don't actually have a ton of news this week, but that is going to skip up dramatically in the next couple of weeks because usually mid-May is when the networks do all of their upfronts, and that's when they decide their fall schedules, and we learn the fate of certain shows that have been on the bubble. They haven't renewed, they haven't canceled yet, and we'll find out about a lot of that. So that's usually like the second week of May, somewhere in there. So in the next couple of weeks, we'll definitely have a lot of news for you, but not a ton to talk about this week. So let's dive into it. The Goldbergs has been renewed for season 10 on ABC. This is a show that I really think sort of lost its way a few years ago, and in fact, it's based around the life of Adam F. Goldberg, and they sort of unceremoniously let him go a few years ago. So, the show now is moving on without his support even. So I don't know. Look, there's been very few shows that have lasted 10 or more years. The Friends is one of the biggest examples. Cheers and Frasier, of course. Married with Children, The Jeffersons, Modern Family made 10, MASH, 2.5 Men, and Big Bang Theory. And then if you count revivals, Will and Grace and Roseanne did it as well. But there's not that many, and that's just, network primetime shows. And that really is only in the last, in the modern age, because that's the list that came up in the article I read. But obviously, like, Make Room for Daddy lasted like, I don't know, 17 years. Ozzie and Harriet lasted a long time. So, but from like the 70s forward, basically in our lifetimes, that's pretty much the list. In terms of network shows. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia certainly has done it, and of course cartoons have done it too. Live action, is specific here. Obviously The Simpsons, I'm wearing a Simpsons shirt. Simpsons has done it. Family Guy has done it. But anyway, it's not a big list. Most will end at 8 or 9 years. Everybody Loves Raymond, Home Improvement, King of Queens, Blackish just finished up, and that was its 9th season. So yeah, very few shows get to 10 years, but boy, there's also the list of shows that deserve the 10 years is even smaller. I'd say from the list I mentioned, MASH, Friends, and I know people complain about the last couple seasons of Friends even, Cheers and Frasier, I guess. And that's about it. A lot of these shows maybe not up to snuff there. All right, over on Peacock, Days of Our Lives is getting a second mini-series. It's going to be called Beyond Salem Again, and it's going to be 5 weeks starting July 11th. And these go one a week, unlike the daily Days of Our Lives show. But obviously, they had good results with the one they did last fall. I even reviewed it. I've never watched Days of Our Lives in my life, but I figured, look, it's on a streamer. It's a new show that's scripted. Let's talk about it. And yeah, it was fine. It's not really my speed, but obviously they were happy with it, so they're getting a second one there. And then Netflix has renewed Big Mouth. We just talked about this last week because I reviewed their new show, Human Resources, which is a Big Mouth spinoff. And Human Resources has been tapped for 2 seasons, or a second season, I should say. And then Big Mouth has been official now for season 7. And in these days, Netflix does not do that. I mean, maybe if you're a huge hit, you'll get that 5th. But the days of like a Grace and Frankie getting 7 seasons or Orange is the New Black getting 6 or 7 seasons, that is over for the most part. But obviously, Big Mouth is one that is still churning the butter over there. And look, it was just announced, I guess, yesterday or the day before that Netflix lost subscribers for the first quarter ever. 200,000 subscribers down from, I don't know if it's from quarter to quarter or if it's from year over year, but in any event, it's their first downturn really ever. And so obviously keeping on shows like Big Mouth could prove to be a wise decision. So, if they have a hit, maybe they'll actually hold on to it for once. All right, and over on The Talk, CBS has renewed it for 13th season now. With all of the people in tow. I forgot that they have 2 guys on there now. Jerry O'Connell is one of them. I'm not familiar with the other one. Akbar Jabajamila or something. I'm not familiar with him at all, but I know Jerry O'Connell, of course. I forgot that they sort of added a few years ago some guys to the mix there, but I don't watch, so whatever. But if you do, there you go. You'll get a 13th season of The Talk. All right, in casting news, live action Ted over on Peacock. We've talked about this a little bit before based on the Ted movies, the teddy bear thing with Seth MacFarlane. So we know a little bit more about it now. Max Burkholder from Parenthood is going to be the star of it. He's going to star as the young version of Mark Wahlberg's character from the movies. It's going to be set in 1993. And Seth MacFarlane's buddy from the Orville, Scott Grimes, is also going to join the cast. And he's in his 40s, so maybe he plays the father of the kid. I don't know, but it should be interesting. And of course, we assume, I don't think this has been announced yet, but we assume Seth MacFarlane will be on hand to do the voice of Ted once again, just like the movies. In other casting news, John Slattery from Mad Men is joining season 6 of The Good Fight on Paramount Plus. He's going to play someone who helps out Christine Baranski's character, Diane Lockhart. I am a few seasons behind on The Good Fight. I think I've seen the first 3 at least, maybe 4. But they're heading into season 6 now with this, and there you go. There's an example of a show that has been on a streamer the whole time, and they're giving it now 6 or more seasons. Netflix really could take a cue, I think, from some of these other people who, when they have a nice hit, they don't just cancel it after 3 or 4 seasons. People, I think, are still upset about Glow, because of the pandemic. They were like, oh, yeah, we're not going to make more seasons of that. All right, well, there's, Stranger Things now. We've been waiting, almost 3 years for the new season. Barry on HBO, we waited almost 3 years for a new season. So I think we could have handled it, but Netflix didn't seem to think so. But here you go. Paramount Plus has, faith in shows like The Good Fight and their Star Trek series. And then, all right, over in odds and ends, Arsenio Hall returning to the talk show format for a limited time with 4 nights of interviews from the Netflix is a Joke Fest. That's what it's. Netflix is a Joke is a YouTube channel they have where they basically put like highlights of their stand-up specials on there. So they have a festival now. Netflix is a Joke in LA, and it's I think 130 comedians or something. Dave Chappelle is one of the headliners. I forget who else they all said, but I know Chappelle is going to be there. That's like one of the big draws. But you can stream these interviews that Arsenio is going to do on the Netflix is a Joke YouTube channel when they come out in May. So that should be cool. I'm a huge Arsenio fan, so it makes sense. All right, IMDb TV is becoming Freevee. Freeevee, kind of like TV, I guess, but it's free. So they want to sort of promote the fact that this is a free streaming service. And now it's going to be called Freevee. They have the Alex Rider TV show, the Leverage spinoff, the Judge Judy thing over there. And that's going to change next week, April 27th. And then they're going to have their upfront presentation on May 2nd to explain what we can expect in original content for the coming year of movies and TV shows. Look, I get it. You want to advertise that it's a free service. But that is a god-awful name. Freevee? That's very stupid. I mean, I kind of didn't like Freeform either when ABC Family changed to that, but now I'm fine with it. I think it does sort of tell us a little bit about what they do. Oh yeah, everybody, come as you are, Freeform content. So, all right, I get it. This is a free service, Freevee, but bad name. But yes, if you're looking for IMDb TV starting April 27th, that will be called Freevee. And then finally, Exploding Kittens is coming to Netflix. A lot of Netflix stuff this week. As an adult animated series, this is a great card game, and it is a fun for the whole family card game, so it's interesting they're turning it into an adult series, but it's going to be from Mike Judge and Greg Daniels, the team from King of the Hill, and then Mike Judge, of course, previous to that, created Beavis and Butthead. Lucy Liu is among the voices that have been announced, but in addition to the show, they're launching a game app as well. So we'll be able to play, I guess, sort of the card version on a phone app, and Netflix is going to be the one like basically doing that and promoting it and I guess creating it or whatever. So this is sort of a first for them. Obviously, with the news of the less subscribers, they are thinking about, okay, what ways can we involve content in other areas? We can maybe make money on said content in other areas. Gaming apps, if they're successful, make a ton of money. So I guess that makes sense. I think Exploding Kittens is a fun game. We'll see how the app works. But yeah, I'm looking forward at least to the show because I do like that team. And I love Mike Judge. Anything he does pretty much, Idiocracy, Office Space, anything he does is pretty much golden to me. All right, so let's move in. Like I said, not a lot of news this week. Let's move into the reviews. We're going to talk first about Moon Knight. This is the latest in the Marvel Cinematic Universe television line on Disney+. I think this is this the 5th of the Disney Plus shows? Obviously, Marvel has had their hand in a ton of the Netflix shows from a few years ago that are now on Disney Plus, but and ABC as well. They had Agent Carter and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on there. But we had WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, the Haley Steinfeld one with Hawkeye. I forget what that was. Was that just called Hawkeye? I don't even remember now. And then Moon Knight. I think this is the 5th, if I'm counting that correctly. But you know what? They come so fast and furiously. Maybe I forgot one along the way there. I guess What If? If we're counting What If, the cartoon version, which I guess we should, because I think it factors into something, the next Thor movie or something. It is honestly very hard to keep track anymore with everything going on with Marvel. But anyway, Oscar Isaac stars in this as Mark Spector, also known as Moon Knight, but he's also Stephen Grant. He plays sort of the same but dual characters because he has this dissociative identity disorder. So, he's sort of the same, but internally, two different people. And Ethan Hawke is here as well, our old buddy from Reality Bites and many other things. He plays this cult leader called Arthur Harrow. And let's see, who else have we seen in this so far? I don't know. F. Murray Abraham is in this as sort of this voice character. So I watched the first episode of this actually twice because I watched it the one night, and then when I was home for Easter, my nephew was interested, so I was like, okay, well, let's watch this. I'll watch the first episode again. So one thing I will say right out about this show that is becoming a real problem, and I don't know if it's I'm getting older, and so it's harder for me to maybe see some things, but like everything is so pitch black dark now in these superhero things. Batman, I couldn't see half the time what was happening. And I noticed it again. I watched the first part of the new Harry Potter movie, The Fantastic Beasts, and like there were a lot of dark scenes in that too. It's okay for the audience to know what's going on. When I watched it at home, this Moon Knight, I didn't quite get it to the extreme at my brother's house. We ended up turning up the brightness on my brother's TV, which he's had that TV like 9 months or something, and it's never been a problem. But we watched Moon Knight, and it was like half the scenes, we didn't know what was happening. We could hear some voices. We could hear clattering. It was insane. Now, once we got the brightness up, okay, we could see it a little better. But, if he's never had to adjust his brightness in 9 months, probably not his TV, right? It's probably the show. I don't know why there is this obsession now with making everything so dark. I know it's a dark tone, so okay. But even this has some laughs. It's not a completely dark tone. Yes, there's some dark stuff going on, some shady business, but it's not quite like the Batman, in terms of, really harrowing, dark themes, although, yes, there are, as always with the Marvel stuff, there is, sort of end of the world kind of stuff and whatever. But But anyway, so that's my biggest problem with it is that I got to be honest. Some of the time, I didn't even know what was happening. And I can't chalk it up to my age because even my 16-year-old nephew was like, I can't see anything that's happening in this show. So look, I don't know what they're doing with that, but I can't grade it in the sort of A range if I don't even know what's happening in the show. But in any event, this guy, Mark Spector or Stephen Grant or whatever, well, Stephen Grant, I guess, is the one that is the gift shop, a cashier or whatever you want to call it, curator at this museum. And he keeps suffering from blackouts and giving him this Mark Spector sort of a personality. He sleepwalks, so he chains himself up at night to the bed. And Oscar Isaac is great in this role because he's really, really giving us these two very distinct versions of the character. In fact, two completely different accents as well. So I thought that was interesting. As we go on, I'm not sure, where the story goes from here. He doesn't really become Moon Knight until the very last scene of that first episode. So I did watch the second one as well. I think at this point there might be 4 that are up. They drop on Wednesdays, so I think probably just the other day they put up the 4th one, I want to say. But in any event, there's 6 episodes total, like a lot of these Marvel shows. I enjoyed watching this. I laughed at the appropriate parts. I think Oscar Isaac is a great choice for this role. I think he's very talented, and we're only sort of scratching the surface of that. As Hollywood, I think he's got a lot of different layers to him that we have not even seen yet. So I think this will be a great jumping point for him in the Marvel Universe. I guess I sort of like the character. I don't know that much about the Moon Knight character yet. I think we're still kind of exploring that throughout these episodes. So overall, I think it's okay in the pantheon of the Marvel shows. Obviously, WandaVision is the best. I always say that. With Loki probably being a second. But if I had just maybe seen a little bit more of what was happening in this first episode, and I will admit the second episode is lighter in color. They definitely, toned it up a little bit. So I didn't have that issue. But man, that first episode, come on, give us all a break here and let the audience see what's happening. Moon Knight gets a B from me. Up next, we're going to talk about How We Roll over on CBS. This is a new multi-camera sitcom that fits into their Thursday night lineup. Pete Holmes is the star of this. And, look, this is still, I think, a major coup for any up-and-coming comedian is the network sitcom. Some of them last many years, as we just talked about with the Goldbergs. And Pete Holmes plays Tom Smallwood, who is a real-life bowler, a professional bowler, and this show is inspired by his life. I would urge you to watch the first 2 episodes of this. Don't bail on the first one because the first episode is actually pretty bad. It's a bad pilot. I didn't laugh once. I thought the characters were quite annoying. And they say right at the top, this show is based on the professional bowler Tom Smallwood. So you knew exactly where everything in the pilot was going because, he's struggling with, I just got laid off and what am I going to do? Well, everyone in the audience that saw that title card knows, okay, well, he's going to be a professional bowler. I understand the show is called How We Roll and they want to get that theme across, but, he could have picked up bowling as a part-time job or something and he just works part-time at the alley or something. But no, we know from the title card that he becomes a professional bowler, or at least that's the goal by the end of that first episode. First episode is a wash. I mean, I would give that like a D or something. It was bad. But I was like, you know what? I've got a little extra time. These, when you take out the commercials, it's like 22 minutes per episode. So I watched the second one. And that is where I started to connect a little bit more with the characters. I even laughed a few times. Chi McBride also co-stars in this, as well as Julie White from the old Grace Under Fire show in the 90s. I have mixed feelings about Pete Holmes. Conan is a fan, and I love Conan, so automatically I'm like, okay, well, maybe, I'm sort of missing it. But he used to be, I think, Conan's warm-up guy for many years on the late night show. But I've never really found him particularly funny. He had his own show on either Comedy Central or TBS. In fact, with the Conan connection, it was probably TBS. And I didn't think that was funny. I've seen him in interviews. He's not that funny, but he does have kind of like an everyman quality, and I think that's certainly what they're going for in this show. He actually, to me, plays more of the straight man in this show, and like Chi McBride or his wife kind of have more of the comedic aspects of it, while he plays sort of the straight man, and that can certainly work. In certain sitcoms. Now, if you're the stand-up and you're the head of the sitcom, typically I would think they'd be looking for you to be a little funnier. But that honestly is not always the case. Sometimes they sort of build the show around you. But in any event, the second episode is where it got me a little more. I'm still not going to give it a very high grade because that first episode was a complete dog. But I can see potential here. After watching the second episode, I can see, okay, maybe there's going to be some potential in the future for this series. CBS does typically give their multi-camera sitcoms more of a chance than, certain other networks would. That's sort of the only home left for several multi-camera sitcoms because you've got The Neighborhood still. I think they have one other one, but even they're sort of leaning, Ghosts and Young Sheldon, they're sort of leaning into the single camera show as well. But look, whatever. I'll end it there, I guess. How We Roll is going to get a C- from me. Now, maybe I really don't think I'm going to watch the rest of the season, but if I were to watch more episodes and they kept improving, I could certainly see the grade going up. But that first episode was so bad that, I can only even grade it sort of on the average of the first two episodes I watched. So C- it is. The Girl from Plainville is next. This is on Hulu, and this is a retelling of the Conrad Roy and Michelle Carter situation, which I wasn't real familiar with these names, but I did sort of remember the story. And basically, I'm not sure what exactly happens because I'm only 2 episodes in, but this guy dies. He kills himself, actually, and is the question, okay, what kind of a hand did this girl, Michelle, have in his suicide? And it was a big trial, which I remember from a few years ago, and I don't want to spoil what happened in the trial if you don't know and you're curious about watching the show, but Elle Fanning plays the lead, this Michelle Carter, and Chloe Sevigny plays the mother of the suicide victim. And this is really another one of these shows where we're seeing tons of these pop up with sort of the sociopathic lead character doing something vile, reprehensible, and not sort of making her out to be the hero like I think they're trying to do it in Inventing Anna and We Crashed on Apple. We talked about that last week. I think they are taking a different take of it where this woman clearly has issues. Now, yes, in the first episode, we as the audience don't quite know what's going on unless you really know the story. So in that first episode, they are sort of making it seem very ambiguous of like, okay, this girl is claiming to be like one of his best friends and his girlfriend and whatever. And, where does she fall into play here? But then the second episode, they definitely curtail that a little bit and go more into like, okay, no, there's something seriously wrong here with this woman. Let's dive in deeper, and find out what her deal is. I think Elle Fanning is a good choice for the role. It is weird though because just because I remember her first seeing her in Super 8, which came out like 11 years ago. I think that was 2011, might have been 2012, but it was a long time ago. It was at least 10 years ago. And she played sort of like a mid teenager, like a 15-year-old, something along those lines. Or she was driving in that movie, so she might have even been 16, although it was in the South, so I think you can get your license earlier. But in any event, she was definitely like 15 or 16. And here 10 years later, she's playing about the same age. This girl is theoretically, I think, 16 or 17. And she still does look the part. She can get away with it, but it's just weird in my mind thinking, man, she's been playing this same age now for 10 or 11 years. But I think she is the right kind of person because she is so sort of cutesy and you want to believe her, so everybody in this town, it makes sense that they would kind of fall for it, and be in on it and not be in on the the thing, but fall for who she is, and really be sort of attracted to her, and drawn to her in that way. You want to believe her, and so it makes sense that they would when you have somebody like Elle Fanning who's so likable in that lead role. Unfortunately, I think this show suffers from just this could have been a 2-hour movie. Like this is one where it's like, I don't know that we need all of these episodes, to really like get to know the people involved and all. Not everything needs to be an 8 or 10 episode miniseries. I say that all the time. And I think this is an example. Everything turns out to be okay. Well, we've seen this done better in this show, or, oh, well, this was dramatized better in this kind of incident. Nothing here is particularly new or exciting. I think the subject matter will keep us invested, but it's kind of like how I felt about the thing about Pam on NBC like a month ago. And I know I'm sort of like comparing this to all these other things, and that's, I guess, kind of the point. Like it is sort of, this is the moment of the true crime drama miniseries, and we're seeing so many of them pop up. You really have to, I think, do something very exciting to kind of stand out. I'm not sure that this one does that enough. So I forget what I left Truth About Pam. I think it was in that C plus type of range. And that's kind of where I stand with this. I may watch the rest of it if I decide it intrigues me enough. I did end up finishing the Truth About Pam, or whatever it's called. Or We Need to Talk About Pam. I forget. But I did end up finishing that, and I don't regret it. I think my C plus is probably still a pretty good grade for that. So that's where I'm going to leave The Girl with Plainville, or The Girl from Plainville, I should say. It's a C plus. All right, up next, we're going to talk about Minx, and this is an HBO Max drama, and it is all about the 70s magazine industry, and specifically the feminist magazine industry, like your, Cosmos, but going to the nth degree. We're talking about male nudity in magazines, and this is the first women's erotic magazine is created. This is a fictional show, so there was no Minx magazine, but I think that actually is to its benefit, because they can really play with the timeline a little bit. Ophelia Lovibond is the main star here as Joyce Prigger, who wants to really, make this magazine happen. And Jake Johnson from The New Girl plays the publisher, who was originally just slated for like an episode or two, but they decided they liked his character enough. Let's write him in as a regular, and I'm so glad they did. I can't imagine the show without him. He's so funny and so good. This is a great show. HBO Max, to me, is one of the great subscription services around. I can see why Netflix is sort of, teetering on losing subscribers and all this, because they have not brought us a lot of really exciting content lately. It's a lot of these like dating shows that now they're being turned on to, whatever. Yes, every so often something on Netflix will pop very well, but HBO Max, they have very few misses. I always talk about some of the shows from last year, including Sort of, which was a CBC and HBO Max sort of mashup. But this is another one where it's like, this is just an excellent show. And it's like everything. There was a show a few years ago on, I think it was Prime, called Good Girls Revolt. And this is like everything that show could have been, that took place like in the 60s or 70s with the feminist movement in the workplace and all of this kind of thing. That was based on true events, whereas this is not. But this is funny. It is, definitely political in the best sense, because who doesn't think, women should have equal rights to men at this point in time? If you're out there, I don't want to know. But, it's something that we can all sort of get behind, looking back 50 years ago, that like, oh my gosh, why are we even talking about this or fighting about it? But it certainly happened, and not too far in the past, right? And the addition of Jake Johnson's character is hilarious. They also have Michael Angrano here, who was on Mad Men. He was on Will and Grace as Jack's son for a season. And he hasn't been in the first couple of episodes so far very much. He shows up sporadically, but he plays the I don't know if it's ex-husband or they're just separated of the main character, and so they have sort of a back and forth. But even in this story, like, yeah, he's second build, but he's like so distant in my mind because his character is so nothing. And like that is exactly the point. Like he's been trying to keep her down, and she's like, "No, f you, guns to the wind. I'm going forward with this erotic magazine for women." And they're talking about things that like vibrators and stuff that in the '70s were so taboo for women to talk about. And it's very candid, and it's a nice time capsule of they really got the era right of like how people viewed sex, especially women viewing sex in the 1970s. This is an excellent show, one of the best of the year so far for me. I leave Minx with an A. Definitely check it out. Another good one. What's the other one on HBO Max late last year? The Mindy Kaling one, the Secret Lives of College Girls or something. That was, I didn't finish it, but the first like 3 I think that I watched were fantastic. So another one to check out on HBO Max. All right, moving over to AMC Plus, we've got That Dirty Black Bag, and this is a Western show about revenge. We've got bounty hunter Red Bill, who is played by, let's see here, Douglas Booth, and he's going after Dominic Cooper's character, the man who slain Red Bill's mother. And so this is a epic Western of revenge proportions, and let's see what we get into. But there's also a lot of B plots and side stories here for people that maybe we don't care quite as much about. I certainly didn't. The big failing in this show, unlike Minx, is that they are trying to have a 2022 slant about feminism in it. And so we've got all of the women at the bars who are, most of them are whores, legitimately. And they're talking about their, it's like all this feminist stuff that just never would have flown in that time period, because it's supposed to be in like the, who knows, 1850s or 1870s or something like that. And it's like, if you're going to try and be authentic, you have to be authentic to the time. And women, as sad as it is to say, really did not really have rights. They certainly couldn't vote yet at that time. It was a whole different era. And now, these women are back talking their men and doing X, Y, and Z. And sure, we love to see it, but it makes the piece so inauthentic. And in addition to that, like I mentioned, there's way too many of these side stories. I did not mind the focus on the 2 lead guys and the revenge tale and him looking for, the who killed my mother and all that stuff. Sure. And there's sort of the pro-women thing. I love my mother so much, I need to track down her killer and just, murder him and his whole family, whatever. Revenging my mother's death. There's your sort of feminist, plot, I think, if you want to remain authentic to the time. So that was sort of a bummer for me, especially when compared to Minx, which is like, boy, did they get that era right, So big disappointment there. I'm not a huge Western fan to begin with, so yes, I take all my Western grades sort of with a grain of salt, but some of them can be very exciting. I loved The Good Lord Bird, to bring up Ethan Hawke again. This one just fell flat for me. AMC Plus, very mixed bag for sure with their shows, but they have a new one called 61st Street that I'll probably watch in the next week or two that is getting pretty good reviews, so maybe that will be a better one for me. That Dirty Black Bag was definitely a miss for that. I leave it with a C-. And finally, we will do Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big Girls. This is on Amazon Prime, and it is a reality show. I'm sort of in a whole Lizzo mood here because we just had her hosting SNL last week as host and musical guest, and now I see her in this show where she's the host, looking for dancers for her new concert tour. And if you know anything about Lizzo, yes, she is, all about body positivity and, big girls rule and all this kind of thing. So she is looking for dancers that are similar in body type to her. Watch out for the big girls, it is called. And there's a few things I feel about this. As a reality show, I think it's okay. The competition portion I actually really like because they start with 13 girls. By the end of the first episode, 3 of them are gone. in one way or another, and then the remaining 10 are going to live in a house together and practice together, and not all of those 10 are going to be chosen to go on the tour. Lizzo has up to 10 slots, so depending on how people go. So this is kind of nice because there's no set number, I don't think, of specific people that she will pick. It might need to be an even number or something to get the dancing right, but it could be all 10, it could be 6, it could be 4, we don't know. So as the season progresses, we'll see at the end. I don't think she's going to kick people out as we go along, but maybe I'm wrong. She's proved in that first episode, and I won't spoil it if you care to watch it. But something happens at the end of that first episode that you're like, okay, I didn't see that coming. And she even says, like, anything goes, with Lizzo. So, but my main issue with it, really is that it is very R-rated with the language and the sex kind of stuff. And to be honest, I think this would be a great show for young girls to see. Teens and, below, I guess. Teens could probably watch this, but, tweens and even younger, 6, 7, 8. This could be a really positive show for them about body image. And look, these big girls got moves and they can do it and whatever. But it's like, they're saying the F word every third word, and every sentence or two has one. And it's like, you can't show this to a 6-year-old, not in good conscience. I wouldn't. But I think it would be great for them to see. So I kind of wish it was actually on like a network or something so they couldn't do that. But I get it. Lizzo's got to be Lizzo, and, she's got to do her thing. But, personally, I really would have liked to have seen a more toned down version of this show in terms of the language, so that it could be a great positive message for all. But other than that, I think the competition part's interesting. I'm not much for dancing shows, so I'm not really going to watch the rest of this. But Lizzo is a fun host. These people coming on to the show did not know that it was Lizzo that they were doing it for. So a lot of the reaction shots when they would enter the studio, that was kind of fun to see. And just, I like Lizzo's personality, so I think she's probably going to turn out to be a good host for this show. But yeah, I just would have liked to have seen it toned down more. So I'm going to leave Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big Girls a B. All right, we're going to close there. Next week, we will have another edition of TV news and reviews for you. We'll see what we can get into with that. What's on all the different streamers and the networks. And coming up in a few weeks, like I said, the network upfront. So we're going to have a lot of news coming up about renewals and cancellations for the next TV season. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.